he often seemed like a force of nature. But when he went up against Sugar Ray Leonard and that sweet science, he seemed to be tamed, and he turned that nature, that force, that fury inward against himself. When he quit in the middle of a round, in the middle of a fight, he basically went against the entire grain of fighting, his own profession, and it rewrote his history. It was one of the worst things that ever happened to a great athlete. And now, here he is, looking for another fight with Leonard, his mission, redemption. But can he bring forth and sustain that great, fierce will to overcome the pure skill of Benitez? Perhaps a look at his glorious past and his haunted present will give us a clue.
He himself doesn't know what happened to him. And who knows what happens through a man's mind, the human mind.
And it wasn't so much what he had done that was so grave at that particular moment, but it was the shattering of hopes and beliefs, and for those who emulated and imitated this man. And every writer, if you took a poll of all the boxing writers in the world, not one of them would have ever been able to write a scenario that happened on November 25th. Everyone, he was the reporter's doll. He was their idol, so to speak, when you come to fight. Here's a man coming out of the bowels of Panama and right into the...
This is where Roberto Duran comes from. The barrio of Panama City, a stone's throw from the affluent canal zone. It is the sort of place you have to fight your way out of. He was born in a small room, now this laundry. He was abandoned by his parents and began to fight his way into prominence on this street corner. As a street urchin, he was known as Cholo, the Indian. But as a boxer, Panama's greatest, he was simply Duran. In 1972, Duran became lightweight champion by beating the Scotsman Ken Buchanan on a 13th round TKO. The punch that stopped Buchanan was a controversial low blow, but Duran was clearly the victor, and now he was clearly an idol.
Well, it was a great feeling of excitement, of proudness, and most of all, the pride of a national hero because of the machismo that was portrayed. It was the greatest reaction of a mass of human being I had ever seen in my life. He just stopped the caravan and stopped in front of the building where he lived. And he started to cry. He said to them, "Yes, I am the champion, but my people made me the champion."
Pound for pound, Duran was considered one of the greatest fighters ever. And in Montreal, he faced another of the best, Sugar Ray Leonard, for the welterweight title. It was a grueling 15-round test. Leonard and Duran stood toe-to-toe, slugging it out. But in the end, the hands of stone were raised.
Leonard sans garantie, Duran sans garantie, le nouveau champion du monde, Roberto Duran.
Few athletes have ever been as big a hero in Panama or elsewhere. Throughout Latin America, he represented the ultimate in machismo. But the risk of reaching such a height is that there is so far to fall. And on an ignominious night in New Orleans, Roberto Duran lost his balance. After being taunted by Leonard in the 7th round and claiming he had stomach cramps in the 8th, Duran uttered the infamous "no mas."
He's not a quitter. If he said he was sick, he must have been sick. You have to take his word for it. Maybe he got hit with a punch. Maybe his stomach was upset.
For getting in shape.
Prove to the people that the night he fought Sugar Ray Leonard, Leonard didn't beat him. Duran beat Duran that night.
His goal?
Only one man besides Leonard had ever beaten Duran, Esteban de Jesus.
He had never lost a fight. He had never been down in his life. So to him it was a shock. We went back to the hotel and he was crying. And all of a sudden, he got up and he said, Bala, I don't understand how I lost. And he took his punch, his fist, and punched the wall, a cement wall. He punched the wall. He said, I'm going to beat him again, I'm going to fight him again, and I'm going to knock him out.
Which, of course, he did.
The fact remains that with Leonard is a greater level of intensity and a greater feeling of pride because of the way he lost.
But there is more to this than merely will. The question is whether a once great lightweight can physically compete as a junior middleweight. His first test was against a good but not great club fighter named Nino Gonzalez. The slightly pudgy Duran won a sluggish 10-round battle, but he didn't convince many that he could pack a junior middleweight punch.
Duran hit me with his best shot, like he couldn't even daze me.
He claims Roberto don't hit. Each time Roberto hit him, he ran.
He should thank God that I was not in the best shape possible that I'm accustomed to be for that fight, because I would have really took care of him.
Notorious for training only as hard as he has to, he has trained very hard to escape his self-made prison.
This is a war, not only in the ring, but all aspects of this event is a war. They don't like us, we don't like them.
Primera vez que fuera a pelear por un título, porque tengo que ganar.
This fight means, to me, everything, because it's like my first fight. If I don't win, that's it.
Those Roberto Duran eyes, how'd you like to look across the ring and see them staring at you? If eyes are the windows of the soul, what can we see in those eyes? You have to ask yourself.
If he want to fight with no glove, I fight him anyway.
That is no idle threat, because that is exactly what happened at the press conference for this fight. A few insults were hurled, and then a few bare fists, a fitting prelude to a meeting of enemies.
They are not crazy about each other. I wouldn't call them friends. There is antagonism between the two, perhaps because one gentleman is from Puerto Rico, one gentleman is from Panama. There's a tremendous rivalry between those two countries.
Wilfred Benitez is a Puerto Rican. Though born in the Bronx, he has spent much of his life in Puerto Rico, in this house. Here are displayed the remarkable spoils of a remarkable boxer, one of 6 men in history to hold 3 world titles. But there is one trophy he has failed to bring home.
The only boxer I think who can beat me is Sugar Ray Leonard. And I want to fight him because he owed me one.
A little over 2 years ago, Benitez fought Sugar Ray Leonard. It was not an easy day. He suffered a cut, he was knocked down, and in the end, he could not, in spite of his skill, beat Leonard. The reasons? Well, it depends on who you talk to.
Well, he beat me because he was too lucky that day. He was the best.
The Ring magazine write that Papa Benitez say that he's gonna lose the fight. And that's what happened. He don't train him.
Well, Father knows best, and he's not shy about saying so. For here, behind the Benitez house, his father trains him as he has his other sons. Though Wilfred has been trained for some fights by Emil Griffith, he seems to have returned to the place he got his amazing start. At the age of 17 years, his father put him in the ring with Antonio Cervantes for a championship fight, and Benitez beat him in 15 rounds.
Wilfred, fighting for the World Championship at 17 and winning, is in the Guinness Book of World Records as the youngest man ever to win a world title in the history of boxing. If I was Wilfred's manager then, instead of his father who was his manager, and the fight had been offered to me because Cervantes then was a monstrous fighter, I think I would have shied away from it.
Trainer Emil Griffith didn't shy away from Carlos Palomino either, and Benitez won a split decision for the welterweight title.
It was a very
touching night for me because it was the first time I think anyone ever retired and went and trained a fighter and made him a champion right away. So I was happy about that. Yeah, that night I cried. I was very happy, and I'm too emotional sometimes.
One judge and the referee gave it overwhelmingly to Wilfred. Zach Clayton scored it 9-6 for Palomino. And then when asked by the media how could he possibly arrive at that decision, his answer was, I was facing the sun, and the sun got in my eyes.
Benitez is a boxer of great skill, and it couldn't have been demonstrated better than against Maurice Hope.
We have many, many thousands of fight films, and I personally have never seen a better right hand thrown at the right time.
So I throw my right hand like I wanted, like catching, and I feel it's in my right hand. I hurt him, and then I say he's not gonna get up. When I feel it, then I say, all right, this is the end. So I was very happy.
But in his most recent fight against Carlos Santos, he showed no great flair. Perhaps he faced a fighter with a difficult style.
Santos fought the type of fight where he absolutely was going to be around at the end of the fight. That is the toughest guy to fight, one you have to chase around like a maniac.
But Papa Benitez has a different story.
I'm trying to tell Wilfred to knock him out, but Wilfred always say in the corner, don't worry, Pep. He's a Puerto Rican. That's the word he tell me every time he come in the corner. I say, you behind the car. He say, you crazy. I know what I'm doing.
It is doubtful that Duran's nationality will soften Benitez's heart. It is just as unlikely that Duran will run away from him. This will be a fight.
Duran must recapture his country. He must recapture the hearts of the Panamanian people, and he recognizes that the only way to do that is a victory over Benitez. And Wilfred realizes that the only way that Duran can recapture his countrymen is a victory over Benitez. That's why Wilfred is taking Duran so terribly seriously.
Remember, don't stand in front of me, because if I see you, I'm gonna hit you. This is Benitez.
So we are moments away from the moment for Wilfred Benitez, so too the moment for the challenger Roberto Duran. Before we get to all of that, here now is the Puerto Rican national anthem. To fight you, and I think it's an interesting note, they're fighting at 154 pounds for the right to fight at 147.
Well, Brad, there's a great deal of pressure, with both men, because they hold a great deal of pride in their countries. So it's going to be a lot of action, a lot of punches thrown.
You can see Roberto Duran's handlers just starting to make their way out of the locker room. The crowd, and I don't know, Larry, are you surprised, is in large part very supportive of Duran.
I think there are more Duran people here than there are Benitez people. There's no question about it. And let's face it, Roberto Duran was a great fighter, respected by fight fans everywhere. Even though Benitez has had 3 titles, I don't think he's ever earned that kind of respect. And that's why we focus so much on Duran here, but it's also why this fight is so important to Benitez.
Carrying a sign are the handlers of Roberto Duran saying the legend is back. El Cholo, Roberto Duran. So Duran looking very, very calm. He has been called the animal. He is not looking the part at all right now.
I've never seen him in better spirits. He's sort of like a guy who got fat and wasn't very happy with himself, and suddenly he had to get in shape. He is in shape, and he feels good about his body again. And in his warm-ups yesterday, he was cracking jokes with the crowd, very uncharacteristic. He feels good about himself. I think he's going to go out on his sword if he goes out. He will give his best effort.
And also uncharacteristic, the fact that this is the last hurrah, without question. Duran has made his way into the ring, and the crowd is really very much, if you pardon the expression, in his corner.
Well, there's a great deal of tension, Barry, and I'm almost expecting some type of early confrontation once Benitez enters the ring.
I don't think there's any doubt about that. Duran actually just flashed a smile to the crowd. He is all business, there's no question about it, but he is business in a very relaxed manner. Wilfred Benitez now is just about to leave his locker room. You see his handlers there with the Puerto Rican flag and the infamous weir number 1. So Benitez about to make his way into the ring, and of course there is the psychology of let your other man get in there first and let him wait for you.
With fighters as good as this and as experienced as this, nothing matters until they start the fight.
And there is Wilfred Benitez in the yellow robe with the red trim. And Benitez, if you had to judge just on facial appearance, looks a little bit tighter than Duran.
Well, Benitez looks very, very serious. Duran seems to be a little more relaxed, although I'm quite sure there's a great deal of butterflies.
Wilfred Benitez, all business, as you can see, making his way into the ring. The last fight that we did, as you just saw, with Carlos Santos, you would have to say, Larry, that Wilfred Benitez was underwhelming.
He was underwhelming against the fighter who was there to make him look bad. And I think the important thing is that Benitez is as pure a counterpuncher as you will ever see in boxing. That's the way he fights best. He doesn't like to fight any other way, and he's against an opponent who will make his way the way to fight.
Jimmy Jacobs, his manager, of course, has said that when he fights an ordinary fighter, he fights an ordinary fight. He is not fighting an ordinary fighter tonight in Roberto Duran. There's no question about that. He has been known to dog it a little bit in training. He has not dogged it for this fight. He is all business for this fight. It's the only way he can be fighting a guy like Roberto Duran. Red Smith, who passed away just a week or so ago back in 1977, was quoted about Wilfred Benitez and saying he's been watching Ali too much on TV. He gets to be a little bit of a hot dog from time to time. And Red Smith said, and I think only as Red Smith could say it, what he really needs is a first-class licking.
He's matured a great deal since then, particularly since Jimmy Jacobs took his managerialship over. I've seen him train better in the last 6 months probably than he had in all the years before. I think because he won the title at such an early age and had such great natural talents, he tended to glide by on it, and he was able to win with it. But he's a much more serious individual now, and I think out of either respect or fear of Duran, he put himself through some very tough training. Both of these fighters weigh 152. We're going to see their best efforts.
And you hear part of the crowd yelling Benitez, part of the crowd yelling Duran, Duran, Duran. People are walking around with badges saying Campeón Duran, champion Roberto Duran. Whether it's wishful thinking or not remains to be seen. Now let's go up to the ring announcer right now, Chuck Hall.
Ladies and gentlemen, the officials appointed by the Nevada State Athletic Commission for the next bout of the afternoon. The judges are Hal Miller, Lou Tabbitt, and Dave Moretti. The referee is Richard Green. This is the main event of the afternoon. 15 rounds of boxing for the WBC Super Welterweight Championship of the World. Introducing in the blue corner, 3 times a world champion. He fights out of St. Jose, Carolina in Puerto Rico. He weighs 152 1/4 pounds. The current WBC Super Welterweight Champion of the World, Wilfred Benitez. And in the red corner, a former lightweight and welterweight champion of the world. He is currently ranked the #1 contender for the Super Welterweight title. He fights out of Panama City, Panama. He weighs 152 1/2 pounds. Introducing the man with the hands of stone, Roberto Duran. 15 rounds of boxing.
Well, the crowd continues to be very much, Ray, in support of Roberto Duran.
Well, I think they reminisce back to his great days as a lightweight champion.
One thing I wanted to ask you, Ray, was Emil Griffith, who was not in the corner of Wilfred Benitez tonight, had been for a couple of fights, and he changed his punching style a little bit. He shortened up his punches. Did that help Wilfred Benitez, do you feel?
Oh, every little bit helps, Brad. But I think
Benitez is such a natural, talented fighter that he has everything. He has all the qualifications, all the tools necessary to defeat a lot of fighters.
In a nutshell, Larry, Duran should be the aggressor. Benitez should be likely the counterpuncher.
I think the fight may tell whether Duran can get into Benitez and hurt him in the body. I don't think there's any question that Duran can't punch as hard in this division as he could in the lighter divisions. If he can get to the body and stay busy and stay on top of Benitez, who has never seen anyone with quite this pressure and speed. We'll see if he has his old quickness, and then also if he can sustain that pressure, or whether if he gets frustrated that suddenly he doesn't come as hard as he did earlier.
I think the question that he probably has to answer himself is, does he still have the ability to put his man away? He's had a couple of tune-up fights and he hasn't been able to do that really in either one. So we're just about set to go now. Everything that can take place before a championship fight has taken place, and all that is left now is to do it inside the 20-foot square ring. Benitez looks considerably more fit, actually, than he did in the last fight that we saw him against Carlos Santos.
He looks very toned, very trim.
He's a bigger man than Duran. He's grown into this division very nicely. He's just 23 years old. He's moved up about 12, 14 pounds since he won his first title at the age of 17. You'd have to say that this is a natural weight for him and that he would easily move up to a middleweight. Duran, of course, he's never fought a big fight at this weight yet. This is a little big for him.
Should mention the white-haired man in the white shirt that you see in the center of the ring there is Ray Arcel at 82 years of age. He is back in the corner of Roberto Duran. Freddie Brown, his cohort, is not in that corner, and Roberto Duran, during the great years of Roberto Duran, subscribed to Ray Arcel and Freddie Brown's four-point credo, which was, number one, the left is as valuable as the right if used correctly. Number two, boxing is the art of hitting and not getting hurt. Number three, it's not how hard you hit a man, but where you hit him, which of course is just what Larry Merchant was talking about. And number four, the speed at which you cut up an opponent is related to how efficiently you cut off the ring. Good points, you feel, right?
Very good points.
Arcel, believe it or not, is starting his 65th year as a trainer.
And he is one of the truly remarkable people that I have met in boxing. At 82 years of age, he's like being with a history book of the sport. Let's take a look at how these fighters measure up. They're very comparable. Duran, of course, 7 years older than Wilfred Benitez, even though from an experience point of view, Benitez is a very experienced fighter. Benitez, 2.5 inches taller than the challenger, Roberto Duran. The rate very comparable. The reach a little bit the edge to Benitez. That should not be any kind of a factor. So that is the tail of the tape. These fighters have fought a number of common opponents. Two of them, of course, are right here with us. Sugar Ray Leonard, of course, beating Duran once, losing to Duran on another occasion, and beating Benitez by a 15th round knockout. Carlos Palomino losing to both fighters, Benitez in a 15-rounder, Duran in a 10-rounder. Emiliano Villa, and both fighters defeated him as well. So those are the common opponents, and right now it is the stare down in the center of the ring. Step it all time. Duran definitely looks very fit. Definitely as fit as I've seen him look. In fact, he looks very much like he did against you, Ray.
He looks very, very trim, and I'm quite sure he's ready.
There has been another factor, of course, and that is that Roberto Duran has had to trim down from 175 pounds or more on 9 different occasions, and that's got to take its toll on a man's body.
Well, it's going to be a filling out process. Benitez, very, very big, very solid as a junior middleweight, although Duran seems to be adjusting quite well now.
Long range center of the ring. Benitez up on his toes early in the first round here. That is Duran in the blue trunk, circling his man. Benitez wearing the yellow trunks with the orange stripe, or red stripe, if you will. First round, 15 rounds for the Super Welterweight Championship. That is not perhaps as much a factor as what the future holds for either of these men.
Both men respect each other. I mean, there is a great deal of mutual respect between Benitez and Duran, and whoever lands the first big punch, they'll be more confident than the other.
That right hand not really doing any serious damage as it landed on the chest of Wilfred Benitez, thrown by Roberto Duran.
Both fighters are a little cold. There's not too much perspiration. And I think this fight here the first round, something might happen.
A lot can be told in the eyes of Roberto Duran. So say many of his opponents. You have looked into those eyes, Ray.
Yes, Duran's eyes, I mean, they used to say his eyes are piercing and they'll scare you. I mean, I always felt if you close a man's eyes, he can't do much damage.
We are still in the first round. Duran has been the aggressor, although neither man really extending himself quite yet. And that is purely out of respect.
You know something, but I think that Duran, in a smaller weight, his punches are a lot more accurate, a lot quicker. I think at this particular weight, Benitez seems to be a little bit more relaxed, although he seems to be a little stiff in this first round.
Right hand to the kidneys of Benitez. Benitez quickly back with the left hand in the face of Roberto Duran. Benitez, it is not unheard of for Benitez to cut. Maurice Hope cut Benitez in the corner of each eye before Benitez knocked him out in the 12th round.
I predict someone will go down in this fight.
Early on here, Duran seemingly getting the better of things. Duran has not come directly at his man. In fact, he is circling his man a lot more than one might have expected here in the first round. And there's a right hand by Benitez that stunned Duran. Duran was stunned by that overhand right by Wilfred Benitez. And a left hand scores by Benitez, a right hand right behind it, behind the head.
Again, Barry, I said the first man that lands a big punch, he's going to go more and more confident.
Well, Benitez was the man who has landed the two most telling blows of the first round, despite the fact that Duran has been somewhat the aggressor, perhaps not as much as many might have thought.
Duran seems to be very sluggish to me his very first round. His punch is not sharp and crisp.
Lunging a little bit with his punches also. You can see him lunge with the left hand there.
I don't like what I see in Duran's eyes. As I say, eyes tell something.
And we'll see a left hand that Benitez shoots out. Benitez very cool. Seems the quicker of the two. Benitez.
Ray, while Larry Merchant and Carlos Palomino were discussing, you wrote one word on a piece of paper here.
Well, I think Duran's weak. You know, they say Duran has been able to maintain his weight around 152 for the past 3 weeks. This is not a common thing with Roberto Duran. Normally, he makes the weight within a period of 3 or 4 days. I think he's a little weak, and that's the reason I think he's going to be sluggish throughout the fight. Unless he's able to land a big punch and build up some type of momentum.
He had a chance at a short right hand there and came up a little bit short as Benitez, and you've talked about this time and again, Ray, really manages to slip punches.
Very, very elusive. Benitez is a very good mobile boxer, and he's able to utilize the ring and very good balance.
I remember Customado, that trainer and manager of Floyd Patterson, used to say that Patterson used to watch a man's chest muscles, his pectoral muscles, and that allowed Patterson to slip punches as well as he did because the chest muscles are the ones that make the arms go. Combination that time by Roberto Duran.
I notice time and time again, every time Duran throws a combination, he has a tendency to look in my direction.
He wants you, Ray. There's no question about it, but he's got one obstacle between himself and you right now, and that's the guy in the yellow trunks.
But I really believe my presence here is a motivating factor for Duran.
Duran seems to be measuring Benitez when he gets him against the ropes. That's where he likes him. And in fact, Gregorio, his father, Benitez's father that is, has said that one of the things Benitez forgets from time to time is to keep his man in the center of the ring.
Well, Benitez is very good, especially against the ropes. I think that's what he's trying to see whether or not he's effective against the rope with Roberto Duran.
There's a little bit of blood on the trunks of Wilfred Benitez. I haven't seen where that's from. Right hand to the kidney scores that time by Duran, who holds on now. And Benitez gets a couple of punches in on the face of Roberto Duran. Duran again has Benitez on the ropes, and I would think that's where he wants it.
Yes, but again, Duran doesn't seem as strong as he normally would, especially our first encounter in Montreal. Very, very strong. New Orleans, he was quite weak.
There's a good left hand by Benitez that snaps the head of Duran back once more. Duran missing a wild uppercut that time and ties Benitez up.
You know, there's a lot of unnecessary pressure upon Roberto Duran. He has to pretty much establish himself once again in the boxing world and also for his country.
Benitez looking to counterpunch here. He's back on his right leg. Wants Duran to come at him. And Duran is obliging him in this round. Duran Duran trying to work on the body. Right hand missed that time by Benitez. But a left hand scores to the nose. It is Benitez who is getting the better of the action here.
Well, once Duran, once he lands his punches, his punches are not as clean and not as potent as they normally would be.
That left hand snapped the head of Benitez back, although Benitez was already headed back. And you can see the quickness defensively of Wilfred Benitez. A little bit of blood from the nose.
Master of his own fate and has things under control.
Angelo Dundee, as we start the third round, once said about Duran, he said, you can't stand in front of him and hit him with the right hand. He said, you may as well forget the right hand.
Duran is very, very slick. And speed will beat Duran. You have to feint him.
And Benitez is giving him everything he has right now. And another right hand scores by Wilfred Benitez.
I feel that this fight will not go the distance, maybe because of the way the pace is going all these early rounds.
And Benitez is definitely the quicker of the two men. There's no question about that. Duran kind of wincing a little bit. Doesn't seem to be from any kind of pain. It's also not a smile. Jab of Benitez, snaps back.
I don't like the way Duran's coming in with his head down, not throwing any punches, not giving any touches of feint. You can't do this against a guy like Wilfred Benitez.
Benitez gets his counter punches off very, very quickly.
Benitez can make this fight very easily by just moving, throwing punches, and scoring points. Unless he gets a little cocky and takes Duran for granted and try to knock him out. Because a knockout comes so natural.
Once again inside, and Benitez did not get hurt by that punch of Duran's, nor by that one. Duran is missing a great deal, but Benitez scores with the right hand to the side of the head of Roberto Duran and snaps his head back with a left jab. Benitez seems to be, at least from an observation, seems to be right now in control of the pace of the fight.
Well, I think Benitez senses something in Duran. He doesn't sense Duran fight without rage. Normally he comes in, bored in, and once Duran's inside, Duran constantly throws punches. And you see here, Duran has Benitez against the ropes. He's not going to work. Something that you normally don't see with Duran.
This is the third round. Roberto Duran on the left of your screen in the blue trunks, Benitez in the yellow trunks. Benitez has had a little bit the better of it right now. His punches are crisper, they are quicker. Duran seems to be lunging a little bit. He has been missing an awful lot. He has had his man where he's wanted him, and there's a left hand right to the head of Duran by Benitez. Duran has had Benitez where he wants him, back to the ropes, and every time he has, Benitez has gotten the better of the action. Right hand by Duran misses, and the right hand by Benitez scores on the heart. And a left jab snaps the head back of Roberto Duran. And now it is Benitez who is the attacker, and Duran who is backing up.
Benitez knows fully well now frustration will be the key to Roberto Duran.
Benitez, that snapping jab and a right hand, and the legs buckled on Roberto Duran. There's a right hand above the eye. You can almost feel, Benitez feel that he has his man where he wants him. End of round three. A good
Keeping his distance, he's staying away, a left to the body, a very good left, and comes back with another light tap.
You know, one thing I noticed about the fight right now is that every time they... I'll finish my thought after. That was the right hand.
Lead right hand.
Every time they come together, Duran is
there toward the middle of the round.
So Duran comes out once more. Duran right now looking the part of a beaten fighter. Round four, a lot of time to go. That jab snapping into the face of Roberto Duran. Neither man is marked. But Benitez has looked very sharp. It is a different Wilfred Benitez, to be sure, than we saw not too many months ago here in Las Vegas against Carlos Santos.
Okay, step back.
And again, three left hands, all of which score on Roberto Duran by Wilfred Benitez. One of the things that was said about Roberto Duran after the famous fight with Sugar Ray Leonard was that he cannot accept frustration. He just will not allow himself to be frustrated.
Continue to, what the fans at home should observe, watch Benitez set Duran up for the overhand right. He's being very, very patient. He flicks that left jab out, and at times comes across with that overhand right.
And that means watch the left hand of Roberto Duran. 2 left hands by Benitez score. If the left hand of Duran drops enough, the right can score.
Duran's not as quick as he used to be as a lightweight, and he can't afford to keep the left hand down that long.
Benitez is unquestionably the quicker. He has gotten his punches off much faster. He has missed very few punches, looking very sharp tonight. Duran working hard, but ineffectively so far.
Again, but I still like the way Duran falls in without throwing anything. He just falls in with his hands down. You see his punches. I mean, there's nothing behind Duran punches.
And again, Benitez just makes his opponent look bad. He makes his opponent miss. Very reminiscent of Muhammad Ali in his prime.
The way this fight is going now, it seems like there's a lightweight in there with a middleweight.
And the lightweight being Wilfred Benitez, uppercut, just misses. Duran's corner between the last 2 rounds was really exhorting his man, and we are going to try to eavesdrop in there between rounds this time. Once again, out is Benitez stalking Duran. Neither man is marked here. We're in the 4th round. And now Benitez goes to the body and then comes up with a right left hand and misses. There's the best punch of the fight by Roberto Duran. It did catch Benitez, and the knees wobbled a little bit, but Benitez comes right back with a right cross.
Every time Duran has a big punch, it's a little bit more and more confidence he's gaining. As long as he's missing, he continues to discourage.
End of round.
He might have left the fight in the gym. I think those 3 weeks of being in 152 might have hurt him.
I would agree, Carlos.
He looks a little bit puzzled, as a matter of fact. He has a furrowed brow kind of look. He did get one good punch in, but it didn't really seem to lift him psychologically as much as you might have thought it would. This is the 5th round. And people at this table are pretty much in agreement that this fight is not going to go the road.
Not the way Benitez is working the body now. I'm not taking things from Duran, but I just feel Benitez is on top of things.
That was Benitez with a left hand, not Duran. Duran misses with a right hand to the side of the head of Benitez. Benitez just makes his man miss. You can't talk about that enough. He's right there, and he looks like a giant target, and then he's not there. Benitez. And Duran might have slowed down a step. Another right hand.
That right hand, I think it dazed Duran. Duran has the same facial expression on his face as he had with me.
Duran talking to Benitez, saying, "I'm okay, you didn't hurt me." But the facts belie the words. Duran does not appear to be moving quite as jauntily as he did in the first few rounds. Halfway mark, round 5.
You don't normally see this from Roberto Duran, moving away from the opponent. Duran normally is the macho guy. He comes to his opponent.
And that right hand lead, once again by Benitez, stunned Roberto Duran.
Okay, let's have it.
You can watch a fighter's legs and know pretty much what an effect a punch had. Right hand to the kidneys once again thrown by Benitez on Roberto Duran. Duran has not done any damage to Benitez here in this round. There's a right hand that does score, but Benitez again was backing out of there when it did score.
Okay, let's have it.
Benitez, all business, expressionless. He is that way at all times, in all phases of his life. 2 left hands right to the chin, neither one really doing much damage, but just disturbing Roberto Duran. There's a left hand as Duran backed out of there. And once more, the legs of Roberto Duran do not look real strong.
But Duran is now just using experience now.
End of round 5 once more.
right now.
That's true.
Sage words from an 82-year-old.
Okay, step back. Step.
Benitez has been in command almost from the opening bell. His punches have been the crisper. They have done the most damage, and Duran is fighting like a frustrated fighter right now. Pretty much a case of the spirit willing, but the flesh, if not weak, uncooperative.
Benitez is starting to make Duran reach for his punches. And this is exactly what he wants Duran to do, so he can counter with an overhand right.
That was something Angelo Dundee, I know, said to you. You don't want to lunge at him.
You can't afford to lunge, Bird, because the guy's able to come back with something.
Very damaging punch that time. A left hand to the ribs of Roberto Duran by Wilfred Benitez. And those have just got to hurt. Benitez missed that right hand that time. One of the few punches in this fight that he has missed. And referee Richard Green tells Duran to keep his punches up.
You know, as the rounds progress, go by, Duran seems to be getting weaker.
He just looks slow, and the fire just does not seem to be there.
Again, Benitez is trying to set his man up for that overhand right. And what he's doing, he's baiting. He's throwing the left uppercut and left hook.
This is round 6. It has been Benitez's fight, I'm quite certain, unless judges are seeing a very different fight than we are. Pace has slowed down a bit here in the 6th round. Benitez content to wait for Duran. And Duran, he's making Duran look like an awkward fighter right now. Not that Duran is exactly a symphony to begin with, but Benitez just keeps him off balance. And there's a right hand in the legs of Wilfred Benitez that time. And once again, a left hand by Duran. And Duran has turned things around with 2 punches very quickly as time ticks down to the 6th round. And let's see if that doesn't lift the man psychologically. It was a booming right hand.
Every time Duran is able to land a big punch, Bird, he'll come back.
And Benitez scores with a right hand of his own. And a whistling right hand to end the 6th round. Maybe the best round
alive. Let's take a look at that right hand punch. There it is. It was a little bit high.
It was a little bit high on the head, and I don't think it really hurt Benitez because he was in good. He got hit with a left hook there again. But you know, like you said, the old man.
And the simple fact is, Benitez can be knocked down. He has been knocked down on more than one occasion. In fact, 3 times in one fight by Bruce Curry. And a right hand very quickly by Duran. And Duran seems to be a little bit more confident now. At least he knows he can hurt his man.
But Duran's not as frustrated now coming out for the 7th round as he was in the earlier rounds, mainly because he landed that big punch. And he thought it did some damage. I think the only one who can really tell you is Benitez himself.
Well, there was no question that Benitez's legs went with the right hand. Duran arm punching in large part, but nonetheless, he's a heavy-handed fighter, and those have got to take their toll. Only the left hand scored. He missed the right hand. Benitez says, come on, come on.
Duran's kind of punches, when he lands a punch, his hands actually feel like stone. Very heavy-handed punch.
And you can hear the force. There's a left hand to the side of the head of Benitez, but Benitez does not take a backward step.
Neither fighter can afford to become frustrated because they'll be in for a lot of trouble.
That right hand missed. The left hand underneath. No damage to Benitez by Duran. And Benitez snaps the head of Duran back with a right uppercut in close quarters. Duran now managing to hold his own when he gets Benitez in the corner. He did score with the left hand there. Benitez is not hurt. And Benitez, once again, not taking his man to the center of the ring.
And what you have to realize, Benitez is
much damage, a lot of activity, not much damage. There's a left hand on the nose of Duran. Duran does not back up. And another left hand, two left hands. Duran says, no, I'm not hurt, comes right back at Benitez. And the fire seems to be coming back in Duran a little bit. It's a defiance almost. Could be an ill-advised defiance, but nonetheless a defiance.
Both fighters seem to become a little arm weary now.
Yeah, there's not been a lot of damage done, even though there's been a lot of action. That was a right hand that did hurt Duran. Duran is hurt. He comes right back after Benitez, but that is an instinctual reaction. Duran was hurt by that right hand.
It seems to be a cut across Duran's left eye.
The left eye, and it is bleeding reasonably seriously. End of round 7. Boxing Federation, that's it. Figured it out. So now Duran's corner will have to do something about stopping that cut. It is right above the eye, and it is in an area that will generally bleed rather freely.
Well, at this point, I don't think it's a serious cut, fortunately for Roberto Duran.
And we'll see if that changes the tactics of Roberto Duran, if he doesn't feel he has to go after it. It has not started bleeding again here.
Duran had the right thing in mind the last round when he started coming back.
And now the left hand snaps the head of Duran back, and the blood once more comes from the eye of Roberto Duran, and a right hand scores. And I don't think he saw that punch. Bleeding is not serious at the moment. And again, in close quarters, and Benitez is content to fight the fight that way. Left hook, but not with a lot on it, thrown by Roberto Duran, the best punch of that exchange. And no blood showing on the face of Duran, so his corner has, at least for the moment, stemmed the flow. That was a lunging right hand that had absolutely nothing on it. Duran trying to measure Benitez, but that is not an easy thing to do. And Benitez with a left hand that scored. 2 to the stomach, 1 to the head.
What's happened now? The head's beginning to collide now.
And that was a lunging left hand that just caught the nose of Roberto Duran. Again, Benitez kind of back on that right leg. It's a defensive posture, but Benitez is an outstanding counterpuncher. Once more, the confidence seems to have risen. And Wilfred Benitez, there's a right hand, and that hurt Duran. Duran backs out of there momentarily. Benitez not looking for the kill when he gets the one good punch in. He does not get careless.
Step back, step back.
Again, Duran really unable to measure Wilfred Benitez here. We've come down to the end of round 8. It has been a slow round, if you will, based on the action of the last couple. None of those punches doing a lot of damage as we come to the end of the 8th round here at Caesars Palace.
Moving punch, don't back out of the clinch. That was what Ray Arcel said.
So let's see if Duran follows the advice of his 82-year-old handler, who has been around the track many more times than once. That was a pretty good left hand by Benitez right there, and it got Duran out of there. And Benitez again now is starting to dictate the tempo of the fight. This is the 9th round.
Benitez is starting to throw Duran's rhythm off by bouncing up and down. He's starting to pick his pace up.
Benitez fighting a very intelligent fight. He's really not been the same fighter 2 rounds in a row. And a problem with the laces now, so we will stop the time for just a moment. And Richard Green will take Benitez over into his corner, and they'll have to tape up the laces.
They're yelling from the corner of Duran for him to move
particular fight has been the key to the fight.
That was Benitez's father, who you saw taping down the gloves. He is his trainer. He is the man in the corner. He had 3 other brothers who were fighters. None is any longer.
Again, as I stated earlier, Benitez's footwork has been the key, along with his hand speed. His ability to throw punches inside to get away without the other opponent being able to connect.
Gets his punches off very quickly and effectively. Doesn't miss a lot of punches. Doesn't waste a lot of punches. And it is amazing how he fights to the caliber of his competition. He does not at all resemble the fighter that we saw here, as you mentioned, beating Carlos Santos. He just seems to fight as well as he has to fight. And he has to fight well tonight to beat Roberto Duran. Duran has nothing to apologize for so far. As you mentioned, it's just a case of the spirit willing and the flesh being a little bit weak. A right hand, and that sends Benitez back into the rope. But once again, Ray, it's one punch.
Yes, but Duran, he doesn't have the snap, because ordinarily, if Duran hits you with a good punch, he tends to rock you. And one punch is not going to just put Benitez, get him in serious trouble.
And again, the key is to watch the opponent's legs, and Benitez's legs did not go at all. It was a good right hand, but it was one punch. It was not followed up, and it did not appear to slow Benitez down.
Benitez should be moving again. I think he thinks Duran's a little bit too weak for him, but again, he should play cool and keep Duran in the center ring and use his boxing skills.
Well, we mentioned his father has said that he has a tendency to forget about that every now and then. There's a right hand again that scores by Duran, but again, Duran can't follow it up as Benitez gets out of there and the blood starts to come from the eye, and I believe also possibly over the bridge of the nose, and there's a right hand by Benitez. I believe Duran may be cut in more than one place right now. This corner had managed to stop the bleeding for the last couple of rounds, and now it shows again. So Roberto Duran comes out still seeking his moment. Incidentally, this is the first time that Duran has been a challenger since 1972, which is kind of interesting. He has been a champion in one sort or another, even in your first fight. Unaccustomed role, and it may be a role that if he is to continue, although he is sending. Whoa, there's a right hand. Once more, you saw the legs of Duran go. Overhand right by Benitez, and a left hand behind it.
So Benitez is trying to knock Duran out, because normally Benitez would use that jab first, but he's throwing all big punches.
There's no question as to the validity of Benitez's right hand. Ask Maurice Hope. Those punches hurt. There was no question about it. Again, the legs of Roberto Duran wobbled with the first one.
As long as Benitez continues to box this way, he's able to frustrate Duran more and more. And I'm seeing signs of frustration in Roberto Duran's eyes.
Duran just unable to get things going. Again, a case of the mind knowing exactly what it has to do and the body just not cooperating. Right hand a little bit short as again Benitez just got his chin out of there. 3 punches by Duran, but none doing any damage. Again, the bleeding has stopped over the eye of Roberto Duran, and his corner doing a pretty good job so far as the cuts are concerned. Now just a trickle of blood shows along the bridge of the nose of Roberto Duran.
Again, Benitez had Duran reaching. And Duran should not be reaching against the caliber of fight Benitez is, because Benitez is a superior counterpuncher.
Once more, Benitez now stalking Duran. Both men might have lost about a half a step here. They don't look quite as agile as they were earlier in the fight. Duran kind of half smiles at Benitez.
You know, I keep counting the right hand of Benitez to come through again, because I know he constantly sets Duran up.
And there it is right there, as advertised. 25 seconds less remaining. And a left hand, but Duran was already going back. That punch did not hurt.
is set up. And the thing is, it's not only a question of Benitez setting it up, it's that he knows the proper time to throw it, and he has rarely missed with it.
I think is equally as tough.
Benitez has a way of making his opponent look bad, and he never looks bad. Well, he's so smooth. Gahala has a lot of showmanship involved, and he displays his talent so well. His father says that in order to motivate Wilfred Benitez, he can't let Benitez think he's going to win the fight. He always tells him you're going to lose the fight. I guess trainers are like that. Not mine. I heard yours say that to you one time. His exact words, as I recall, were, "You're blowing it, kid." Okay, let's have it. That's to give you a little boost.
I think maybe his father told Benitez too many times he was going to lose in the fight with you, Ray.
I'm glad he did, Carlos. Meanwhile, Benitez still continues to have things his own way here against Roberto Duran in the 11th round. And now, in fact, as he takes a pretty good shot that time right to the nose, it backs him up, but again, it didn't really seem to hurt him. It still wasn't a solid shot. On occasion, Duran has landed some punches, but there hasn't been the power behind. There's no leverage Duran is able to get behind his punches. Duran's hope now, I would have to think, would be, if I can't be good, perhaps I can be lucky. Halfway through round 11 now. Benitez again, very poised. Benitez is working Duran's body more and more now, especially in his late rounds, because I'm quite sure maybe he senses a bit of fatigue in Roberto Duran, or sense of weakness. Duran does seem to be hanging on a little bit more than he did in this round, the 11th round. Pace has slowed a little bit here in this round as well. But Benitez has got to feel, I'm not going to get careless. I've got the fight pretty much in hand right now. Get Larry Merchant at the end of this round, perhaps, to look at his own card and talk about how he's seen the fight. And there's a good right hand by Benitez. An uppercut misses. Duran got out of there on the second punch. That right hand hurt Duran because he did not retaliate at all. Again, Benitez just continues to stalk his man. And Duran is looking more and more the part of a tired fighter. Benitez is quicker and stronger right now and less tired than Duran, and that combination is a hat trick that does the challenger no good at all. That is the end of the 11th round. The first one to the center of the ring. This is round 12. Benitez, yellow trunks, Duran in the blue trunks. And Duran simply said is just going to have to get. Step back, step back, step back. It is not unprecedented for Benitez to be knocked down in the late rounds. To wit, Sugar Ray Leonard put him down in round 15. But Duran just seems to be swinging mostly with his arms now. He's not getting his feet really into his punches either. He seems off balance, seems to be lunging, but throwing mostly arms. Well, Duran is definitely not into his fight. Although if he's able to land a punch like I stated earlier, then he'll get back into the fight. But just temporarily. Duran fights in moderation. A fight of Roberto Duran's caliber, especially as many fights, impressive fights that he's had in the past, he knows fully well when his time is pretty much over. Duran has got to start feeling the sands of time, start to shift a little bit on him. And again, a case of the mind saying, I know I have to do this, and the body just not being able to react as it once did. And now a little blood showing on the left eye of Benitez. It is in virtually the same place as the cut on Duran's eye, and alongside the eye is where it looks to be. Does not
seem to be the type of cut that could get into the eye, but nonetheless a cut on the left eye of Benitez.
Benitez comes in with that left hook to the body and to the head.
And now Benitez may feel he's got to be doing a little more business here. The cut is not serious, at least in terms of impairing his vision. It has brought about some concern, however, from his supporters. No blood shows on the face of Duran, who was cut in the 6th round.
You know, it's amazing, Barry. Both of these men are really going at it. Benitez coming out on top without question, but they're fighting for one reason, to fight Sugar Ray Leonard.
There's no question about that. That is what each man is after. This is a championship fight, but I really believe it's fair to say that this championship is incidental to what the future holds.
Oh, yes, it is. It's just a stepping stone, pretty much.
Fighting Sugar Ray Leonard, I don't say this because you're sitting alongside of me, but fighting Sugar Ray Leonard is a money fight. And that's just the name of the game. Right hand that time by Duran.
Duran was hurt very seriously. That overhand right by Benitez rocked Duran. Duran stumbled back.
Benitez, of course, with that right hand, not Duran. Duran was the man that was hurt. And again, a right hand. And here's a right hand by Duran. Benitez says, I'm not hurt. Come on after me. End of the round.
That was the punch at the very end of the round. As you saw, Benitez motioned him to come to him, saying, you haven't hurt me. Punch, but it wasn't as good as this punch that we're going to see coming up here. You know, that was the same punch from a different angle. We haven't got the big punch that Benitez put on Duran.
Duran running out of time here. 13th round. He has 9 minutes of fighting left. The crowd is on its feet in support of him. Duran has simply said, just got to go get him. It's that simple. The cut on the face of Benitez has been closed for the moment. It caused him no problem at the end of that round.
Both men land solid punches that last round, but I think Benitez's punch was a little overhand right was a little more damaging. Although Duran, that was the best punch I've seen Duran throw throughout this fight.
Duran still seems to be a little bit cautious. There's a thin line between being cautious and having respect. Duran does not want to get careless. He has been hurt by Benitez. And so even though he needs the one big punch here to at least set his man up, he does not want to be careless in trying to get it.
I don't think, it seems to me, Duran doesn't have his mouthpiece in his mouth.
I think you're right, actually. I don't know the reasons for that. Doesn't seem to be so tired that he has to breathe through his mouth. Coming down to the halfway mark now of round 13. That punch did no damage. This seems to be a round once more of pacing, and a wild right hand by Duran misses. This is the 13th round. The fight has belonged to Benitez, and I don't think there's any question but that Roberto Duran is going to have to knock his man out to win the Super Welterweight Championship, and with that, of course, a chance at a big money fight if he has his druthers with Sugar Ray Leonard. Again, Duran lunging a little bit and no damage being done at all. So another round virtually has gone by for Roberto Duran without finding that one punch that he desperately has to have. And so we come to round 14. And Duran has just got to go get Wilfred Benitez. And Benitez is not been easy to find. Neither man showing any blood now after both men had been cut alongside the eye. And again, Duran just looking for that opportunity, looking for that one chance, stalking. But Benitez continues to keep him just off balance enough.
That's exactly what it seems like. Duran's trying to wait for one big punch. It's a little too late. He needs more than one big punch. He needs a knockout.
Benitez is not the kind of guy that you're going to knock down with one punch.
So Benitez can afford to lay back like this and just box him. Work his left jab, score some points. Duran needs to go inside, become even more aggressive, even though fatigue has set in because they both men look very impressive. Duran needs to go to work.
Eavesdropping on the card of Larry Merchant. Larry, you gave Duran, I believe, just 1 or 2 rounds.
I've given him 2 rounds so far.
So there seems little question that Duran is just going to have to go after it, and he's just been unable to do that. He has not embarrassed himself tonight. Duran has said that if he does not beat Wilfred Benitez, this will be his last fight. He also said that after his fight with you, so whether that is going to be the case remains to be seen. A little blood again showing over the eye now of Roberto Duran. And once more, Benitez just doing what he has to do to keep his man off of him, and he has managed to do that very well. And Duran is fighting like a tired fighter right now. Benitez appears to be the stronger of the two. Duran just kind of leaning on Wilfred Benitez now as the pace has slowed appreciably here in the last couple of rounds. Inside the 30-second mark now of round 14. And Duran scores with a couple of punches, but again, Benitez is not going anywhere.
Duran tries to rally, and Benitez stops his rhythm with some of his punches.
So a case seemingly of too little too late for Roberto Duran. And we come to the end of an argument you would not think of prime import as we come to the 15th round. They touch gloves. And now we will see what Roberto Duran has left, if anything. Crowd on its feet. Duran, Duran. Benitez pretty much just has to stay away.
That's all he has to do. Benitez just has to stay away. Because Duran's going to try anything, and everything.
Duran, a tired fighter without question, still leaning on Benitez, even though he has just got to go get a knockout. Mostly gloves, not much damage. Crowd comes alive, but there was little damage. Duran's corner exhorting him to go after him, and once more Benitez comes up with a couple of punches of his own, and that sends Duran backward. Seem to be talking to each other as Duran again fighting without a mouthpiece here. I think if Duran had his choice, he'd also fight without gloves.
Might have been a closer fight.
And again, it is Benitez who is getting the better of it. A left hand by Benitez and a right hand by Benitez, and Duran just seems to be able only to lunge and lead. 2 more by Benitez, and Duran is now unable to score at all. An uppercut and a left hand, and the crowd comes alive. Benitez doing the damage. Benitez provides a moving target even when his back is in the corner.
Well, this is Benitez's resting place. He gets inside, he's able to score at will.
A right hand and a left score by Benitez, and Duran is on wobbly legs. 3 left shot may just not be in the fists of Roberto Duran tonight. Benitez, in fact, may have taken Duran's best shot already. Again, Duran over us directly here. And unable really to come up with the punch that he needs. The fight is over. Duran says, get out of here. Now Duran wants to fight. Benitez went over to try to congratulate him. Duran says, go away. Don't bother me. And now Benitez is saying, come on, with a big smile on his face. Benitez, virtually without question, is the winner of the fight.
Most definitely, and that was very unsportsmanlike on Roberto Duran's part, not to have shaken his hand.
Benitez getting a ride here on the shoulders of one of his handlers. That is his brother, I believe. And the Puerto Rican flag back in the ring even before the official decision is announced. Roberto Duran wanted no part of Wilfred Benitez when the fight was over. And Duran is now raised on the shoulders of his handlers and gives the victory gesture. The one thing I think you have to say, Carlos, is Duran did himself proud tonight.
Yes, he did. He tried hard. He fought his heart out. He just didn't have it anymore. Just didn't have it at that 154-pound weight limit. He was 152, but just didn't seem to be able to carry that weight and keep his quickness and his snap on his punches.
You cannot turn your back on the career, of course, of Roberto Duran. He came into the fight with 74 victories in 76 fights, 55 of those victories coming by the knockout route. And tonight, he was just in against a man who was 7 years his junior, who was quicker than he was, and who just got off the punches that he had to get off that Duran could not do.
That's true. But it's just like, I guess you could say he's a magician in the ring. He's like a magician. He's hard to find. He's hard to hit. And like his father says, he fights up to the caliber of fighter that he's fighting, and he definitely showed it tonight.
Tonight he fought a top-notch fighter, and he fought a top-notch fight. And it was just that simple. So we are now ready for the official decision, and for that, let's go right up in just a moment, as there is a little bit of a discussion going on now. Chuck Hull is not quite ready to give us that official decision. Benitez just doing exactly what he had to do tonight, and he unquestionably will come away with a unanimous decision. I've seen stranger things happen in boxing. I don't think we'll see it tonight. Let's go to the official decision and Chuck Hull.
Ladies and gentlemen, we have a unanimous decision. Judge Dave Moretti scores 144, 141. Judge Hal Miller scores 143, 142. Judge Lou Tabbitt scores 145, 141 for the winner by unanimous decision, and still the super welterweight champion of the world, Wilfred Benitez.
Well, you heard that decision, and I've got to say, Carlos, one judge scored at 143, 142. It was a lot closer than I thought the fight would be.
It was scored a lot closer. I didn't see it that close. I thought it was a lopsided win for Benitez.
I would have thought exactly the same way, and I would guess that almost everybody along press row here would have seen the fight exactly as we did. It was a unanimous decision, as we thought it might be, but it was an awful lot closer on the judges' cards than one might have expected. I think from about the 10th round, we were saying that it had to be a knockout if Duran was going to win it, and obviously that was not so.
That's right. You know, and the way the fight was scored, this could give Duran an opportunity to keep fighting, because if he feels he didn't lose that badly and he feels he still has it, he will continue, and that's it's false, I think.
All right, we are going to have an opportunity to talk first, I believe, with the loser, and he was only marginally a loser at that, Roberto Duran. So let's go up to the ring and Larry Merchant right now. Larry?
All right, here's Roberto Duran. Roberto, do you feel you got in the best shape you could and you made the best effort you could?
Roberto, te entrenaste